It's 5:30. It's time to call the commission meeting to order. Would you please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the commissioners, the next item is the adoption of the agenda. Have you both had a chance to look at the agenda? Do you have any modifications?
I have, and I have no modifications, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I've reviewed the agenda and I'd like to remove item O, consider awarding Central Park Stormwater Infrastructure Investigation from the consent agenda and have it placed in items for commission action.
All right, duly noted. With that change, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, item number 2, appointments. Item A, the Planning Commission. There are 3 terms that expire January the 1st, 2022, and 1 resignation. 3 eligible members wish to be reappointed, and there is an application for 1 open position that is due by noon on January 4th of 2022. So if you're interested, you have time to consider and get your application in. So at this point, I would like to reappoint Mary Jo Meyer, Brent Littleton, and Tony Royce to a 2nd term ending on January the 1st, 2025. And the open position is an inside city position. And I would like to thank Barb Emmett for her service to the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you very much, Barb. Item B, the Economic Development Advisory Board. There are 4 terms that expire January 1st of 2022. 3 eligible members.
Mayor, do we need to vote on your
that?
appointment?
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Do I have a second on that?
I second your nominations.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, continuing, thank you. There are 3 eligible members that wish to be reappointed on the Economic Development Advisory Board. And the applications for 1 open position are due by January 4th of 2022. So with that, I would reappoint Paul Yarlaski, Chuck Goad, and Wayne Stephanie to a 1st term ending January 1st of 2025. They all served a partial term when the board was originally appointed on October 10th of 2019. And Brian Height does not wish to be reappointed. I would like to thank Brian for his serving on the Economic Development Advisory Board and thank him for his service. Do I have a second on this?
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Item C, the Historic Preservation Resource Commission. 2 terms expired. 1 eligible member wishes to be reappointed. The applications for this position are also due by January 4th, 2022. At this point, I would like to reappoint J.D. Cox to a 1st term ending January 1st of 2025. J.D. previously served an unexpired term. Tim Haynes has served 2 full terms, but will continue to serve until an appointment is made. And there are specific requirements for this board also. So do I have a second on this?
I second the nomination.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the 1 exception that's been noted?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as modified.
I second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Okay. On that item O, when we get to commission action, I will put that at the first, Commissioner Kaflish. All right, moving ahead. Okay, item 4, we have, presentations. Presentation of 60% plans for the 1916 City Hall. Excuse me.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is Vance Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Vance.
All right. I have with me tonight Kara Grant, also with Trainer HL. And I'd like to just give a quick introduction if I could, provide a little bit of an update, and then I'll turn it over to the folks at McCowan Gordon, and they can do their presentation as well. As an update, I just want to remind everybody that back on December 3rd, we presented a 60% construction document set both to the city and to McCowan Gordon, the construction manager on the project, so that they could look at the progress in the set, update the budget estimate, and of course, as previously discussed, while they were doing their work, we were going to continue to make progress on those construction documents and continue moving forward. And of course, the main purpose for tonight is to provide that update on the budget. Looking forward a little bit, next week, or I guess it's the week after, we have a meeting set up on January 7th so that we can work with the city and the committee on this project and sit down and go through the documents page by page and making sure that all of the design elements that have been requested by the city are showing up in the documents. And so that meeting is an important meeting. And then on January 27th, we'll return to the city so that we can present the final construction document set for City Hall. And that will require commission approval at that time. The other action item that will be needed at that meeting will be to set the bid date for the City Hall project. And if the commission chooses to move forward, then McCowan Gordon can issue the documents the following day or shortly thereafter to subcontractors for bidding purposes. What we have talked about in the schedule is that February 18th could be that possible bid date. And then after the bids are received, McCowan Gordon, of course, needs time in order to vet those bids. And then we would return back in front of the City Commission on March 4th. So that, in general, is the schedule that we're working towards. And as I mentioned, tonight's presentation really is important from the standpoint that McCowan Gordon has had a chance to look at the progress made in the construction documents, additional information, additional discussion, and they're here to provide an update. So with that, I'll step aside and let the folks at McCowan Gordon take over.
All right. Thank you, Vance.
Vance, thanks. It's Travis Huffman and Jake Oberlechner with McCowan Gordon. I believe we also have Alan Youngers on the phone. Our goal today is Jake's going to run you through the effort and the progress we've made to date, working very closely with Vance and his team with Trainer on evaluating the scope with the input from the city and what the options are and what the current market is telling us with the progress that we have to date. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jake to give you an update on the progress.
Thank you. So yeah, in your guys' packet, we have our kind of standard deliverable. We have our clarifications and assumptions document, as well as a detailed estimate summary. It's pretty similar to how we did the DD estimate. It's broken down into several different areas throughout, as well as we have an alternates options list.
So this is just for City Hall.
Correct.
Yep.
Excuse me here. So our 60% estimate for City Hall came in at 4.9. This number is roughly 2% from where we were at the DD estimate. So overall, we're kind of trending in a good spot there. We did receive some market feedback from a couple mechanical and electrical trade partners on this, as well as some finishes as far as painting and flooring. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
I mentioned the design contingency and where we're at with that, with the progress set.
Yep. So on your guys' estimate summary, there at the bottom, we are carrying a 1.75% design contingency. So that's totaling out to $75,000. So this amount is basically just to kind of cover us from design or from the 60% set till we get to the bid set here in January. Ideally, that amount will zero out by the time we get our final drawings and bid date established in February. So we are carrying a little bit of contingency on that to kind of cover any unforeseen conditions that aren't clearly noted on the drawings at this time.
Similar process to what we did at this stage for the fire and EMS.
In the cost estimate you've provided for a new elevator, can you give me the thought process? Is the elevator not functioning? Is it broke? Or are you just making a recommendation to upgrade it this time?
It's a recommendation. So we had Otis Elevator come out and do an initial early survey here probably about a month ago. They came out, they didn't run it, they just kind of did a bunch of photos. They had a superintendent come down from Kansas City, and he kind of just made an initial assessment of what needed fixed, and then they also provided a cost for a new elevator. So the detailed cost for the existing elevator they provided was more of like a modernization proposal, and its figure was roughly $115,000. And then the new elevator cost came in about $90,000. So right now we got the new elevator figure in this 60% estimate.
So did I see that the dumbwaiter was estimated at $80,000?
That's the budget we received from Otis.
Okay. I wonder if those two items should be put in a add alternate consideration. You know, if the elevator is going to function that's there now and there's no reason to totally replace it, then, you know, I guess you're going to leave the piston and new pump, new controller, new car. So if the existing elevator operates well, I don't see why change it out. I've, noticed other buildings in town have had elevators in since the 60s, and they're functioning and providing good service, and, but maybe looking at an alternate instead of a hard number in the bid, and, $80,000 for a dumbwaiter, maybe reconsider use. The third floor is useless without that assistance, so that one's a little more critical than replacing the hydraulic elevator. My thought at this time.
I can respond to that. The one challenge we had is with the initial assessment from Otis is the power is not, the adequate power to run the cab is not there at the building right now.
Right.
And so it would be an additional investment to do that due diligence and run temporary power just to even see if the existing cab would work. And so they did the best assessment they could with the modernization cost, and it actually was more than a full replacement, knowing that the service power would be there. So that could be something that the commission considers is an initial or an extended investment onto the due diligence on if the existing cab will work.
Or with handling it the way we are with construction, if we have it in our budget, and then, because you're going to need to take power over there, you're going to have a pump, and if the pump and the controllers are working, it'd be logical to go ahead and see, because the elevator, I understand, was working fine at the time it was shut down. Then if it has to be, we find out that it has shorted out and totally shot, then during construction, but to run power over there right now and set everything up to change during construction doesn't make sense either.
What I may
So-
recommend is to carry that line item as an allowance.
Yeah.
And then we can do the original work with the power and then early on in construction. The one thing I would want to verify is lead times, both on the retrofit of the existing or the new cab to make sure it fits within the window of construction if we wait till we mobilize. But
Right.
that can be an option at this point, is to carry that as an allowance to allow a little bit more time for the extended due diligence.
Good. Other question I had, I noticed the carport from the county, that we're disassembling the whole carport and tearing out the retaining wall. It seemed like there are ways, when you build next to an existing structure, to put in the footings and work with that without spending, what, 36, I think the budget was 36,000. You know, the note on the drawing talked about saving the columns, but it's a whole steel frame up there that, you know, to take it down, it seemed counterproductive to come right back with a new footing at the same place that looked like a cast-in-place retaining wall, stem wall, that, you know, as investigation goes, maybe do an allowance or something, but to remove the whole canopy seemed like money, and particularly 36,000 for that was a lot of money for what it is.
Jake, do you want to walk them through the process?
Yeah, our allowance there basically was to cover for that new addition that comes off the corner of that southeast, the storm shelter addition. So that allowance, we're just modifying. We're not really demoing the whole carport structure. We're just gonna, you know, cut and fab the steel there. We'll probably have to temporarily shore up that carport, but we're not planning on tearing down the whole structure. We're just more or less modifying it to where we can get scaffolding in there to build that masonry wall.
The notes on the demolition drawing were a little more extensive. That's why I thought, you know, it seemed extreme for the type of carport it was, and to tear out and build back that amount of work. That, you know, if you've got an existing building, you deal with the structure and you work around the conditions there to build the new without affecting the existing, and to go, you know, just spend money that we didn't need to.
Right.
So, okay.
We did also provide an alternate, so that there's an additional $30,000 alternate you can add to that allowance that we've already established in this base bid estimate, that would provide a new carport structure there as well.
Yeah, I like the county. I like them parking in their shade, but I don't like the idea of us building them a new carport. Even though we're good neighbors, and they're good neighbors, and we want to cooperate.
And that's what we reviewed, is looking at both a full replacement, and really this is for a constructed building component, is that canopy runs right on the property line, and with that new extended building, there's no room to build that wall. So then we did a reevaluation and created that allowance to pull that back to the next column line to at least allow us to get in there to build the new structure and then put it back.
I have a question back on that elevator. That motor, that's three-phase that runs that elevator? Do you know?
I don't, yeah.
Probably was.
Okay. And that was,
208 three-phase, I think.
okay. Okay, I wasn't sure of whether it was 208 or 240. Because that was
I don't
a,
remember.
okay, that was a
'Cause it might-
single
it might
phase
be
and a three-wire
240,
delta.
Yeah.
Service that went into that building. It was a six-wire service, so I was just curious. But that, if it's like 240, they're normally compatible to go up to a higher voltage, so, okay. So then, when he was talking about the dumbwaiter and the elevator, making modifications to the elevator if needed, and the dumbwaiter, that's where you came up with $190,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. Let's see here. You had talked about earlier, when you made your statements about, you had talked to a couple of service industry groups about this. What was their opinion as far as availability and as far as product and that?
Are you talking lead times or?
You said they had a favorable impression about what this plan was when you initially made your opening comments.
Just talk about the market input
Market.
that you got.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, more or less this is, we sent this out to a couple mechanical guys and electrical guys, and they provided some market feedback from what they're seeing now.
Okay.
More or less, it was kind of in line with where we were originally,
Okay.
from a mechanical and electrical standpoint. So those two budgets really haven't fluctuated up or down to this point.
Okay. And they don't see any problem with availability of product?
Not really. I think one thing we did notice on fire EMS is the backup generator has a 30-week lead time. So that was obviously a concerning thing that we saw. But the availability of the split systems, it was 16 to 18 weeks, but there wasn't too many other big red flags that we noticed.
All right, thank you.
Another question, I guess, well, first, Vance and Tara, we had talked about the north elevation, the change of the overhead door, the entrance into the police area. Have you done any sketches or got any ideas generated on how that would be modified?
So, Commissioner, what we did after hearing the preferences of looking at alternative materials there, we actually decided that we would wait to see where this 60% estimate number was coming in, because what we didn't want to do is start adding cost to a project if all of a sudden we were seeing issues with where the estimate is. So when we come down on the 7th to meet with the city and the committee, we will be bringing an option or two based on the discussions that we had previously. But right now, no, you don't have anything in front of you that shows it.
What did you use for the cost estimate for that opening?
I use storefront.
Storefront
Yes.
and hollow metal for the walk-through door?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we had storefront to the west, and then that other opening was, or I guess the other opening was an overhead door.
Okay. So you've got the cost to work with that as a guideline, Vance, to keep within that parameter, or at least have a basis that you don't get real sophisticated on how to close the opening.
That's correct, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, we'll be working within that parameter, looking at what kind of options do exist to change the appearance there, but trying to stay within that budget that McCowan Gordon has put together for us.
One of the notes talked about using EFS somewhere on the outside.
Yeah, that was just a cost option we threw out there for that storm shelter. It's a cheaper alternative to brick veneer, and we're just more or less trying to find a way to get back down to that original budget we provided at DD level.
So that was just on the hardened shell addition?
Yes.
Okay. Concrete block?
Yeah, right now there's 12-inch masonry with a brick veneer on the facade for that storm shelter. So this would still have 12-inch block, but just have a EFS product applied to the outside versus brick veneer.
Okay. Had you looked at any of the impact of that on the design, Vance?
So, Mr. Commissioner, we haven't looked at what it might do as far as a change in appearance. Our preference certainly is that brick is a much more durable material, and as long as the commission is comfortable with the pricing that McCowan Gordon has presented tonight, our preference would be to stay with the brick veneer rather than switching to an EFS product. If, however, during the discussion tonight that we need to look at cost savings measures, then we will certainly do that for you.
I think we need to look, in my opinion, we need to look at cost saving measures. That southeast corner where the addition is, it's not high visual. I don't want it to look like, a house that has stone and really attractive front. And then you go around to the back and there's T111 plywood siding. But if the EFS can be transitioned in that space attractively and work with part of that wall will be seen at the south main entrance. If you could do rustication joints or handle it attractively, I think it would be considered. And brick is more durable. We can see that the way it performed on the original construction was excellent, but when we're looking at cost savings, I think at this point, if we wait and make a decision to try and look at something else, the 7th, all we're going to do is drag it out longer. And we need to have some ideas if it will work, if we can get an acceptable facade with EFS or not for the 7th meeting. And the same with the existing entrance into the apparatus bay to the police station. There's some issues with it of when the header was raised over the door, some of the stone trim on the side stopped short, and there's like a 8 to 10 inch gap in the stone that's brick. So, there's just kind of one thing creates another there. So even with the storefront, you've got that stone jamb that needs to be extended to make it look aesthetically or trim it out some way to conceal it.
Yes, that's true, Commissioner, and we certainly know that, and we'll look at that as far as options for the 7th. Kara and I can then also talk with McCowan Gordon and look at the EFS option and see if we can't come up with an idea so that it can be evaluated.
I have a question on the temporary ventilation. What is the status of that? How is that working out? Is it doing what it was intended to do?
So actually, before the meeting today, Jake and I went by and did a site visit, and
Okay.
both units were running. You could feel the airflow, and actually, we did a moisture check, just visual.
Right.
And everything looked about as dry as I've ever seen it, but I also know that we've been without rain for an extended period of time, which is a good thing. So just based off a visual performance standpoint, the units were running, the air was moving, and it felt dry. I didn't see any new moisture within the walls other than the north old mechanical room, which that window well continues to have water gathering in the bottom of that.
Probably, I'm looking at the alternates. Yeah, the EFS is a deduct of 26,000, but going to landscaping around the generator, we could deduct 58,000. So when it comes to aesthetics, if the EFS isn't visually if it doesn't work, at least we can cut some money by looking at the generator screen. The deduct for the skylights over the window wells, that seems, for what benefit that would give us in that area, maintenance, cleaning, problems there, that seems like it'll pay itself to keep the trash and the leaves and debris out and seal up the area.
With that alternate 6, we had talked about that, so that will still stay the 30,000?
Correct. You already have 30,000 included in this base number for modifications to the existing structure. If we're looking at putting a new structure up there, like a pre-engineered open canopy structure, it's going to be an additional $30,000.
And then that masonry screen wall at the generator,
Yeah, so what I did there is, since alternate number one completely removed that screen from the scope of work, I looked at another option, just a block and brick screen wall versus kind of the structural steel that they were showing there. And it is a little bit cheaper, so I guess if you did accept alternate two, it'd be about a, let's see, 9,000. Yeah, it'd be about a $9,000 deduct in lieu of what they're showing on the drawings.
okay.
So in your review of the 60% construction drawings, you generated the cost estimate, and in doing that, you get an idea of what's been shown for finishes, framing, portions of the construction. Now, I assumed when we discussed this initially that now you would be going back with Vance and Tara and saying, hey, if we change this, if we change this material, if we do this different, that you can initiate some savings. Am I correct that that's next going to be?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've been working with Kara pretty much throughout this estimate, going over finishes, where we can save money as far as, flooring, stuff like that. So we've been working pretty closely
Okay.
and kind of dialing things in as we go.
Great.
Just so the board knows, we do have a standing weekly meeting with the trainer team every Thursday morning. We actually had one this morning where we go through those details as we progress through each of these projects to talk about the design development, the cost input we can have. So there's a lot more items we've already considered and vetted out that aren't a part of this list that just didn't make sense and before we presented it to the commission. So we do have a weekly standing meeting with Vance and his team.
Good, okay. Well, that's what, when we were discussing the ways to proceed, I would see that happening, and unfortunately with the distance, and it's hard to have face-to-face meetings to get that conveyed, so, good. One for staff, when the county relocated their dispatch, they put a new antenna. Is there a possibility that, we had talked about maybe them partnering with us for the antenna. Is there a possibility of us partnering with them to utilize their antenna?
I don't believe, Jerry, their antenna is an antenna. I mean, it's just because they're off of a Davis system.
Okay.
So they just need a standard antenna, whereas we need a tower.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that they had built one. They got their pieces off the rooftop units and
Yeah.
had gone, but I didn't go by to look.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're,
I was hoping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, do you have any? I mean, is that? I do not believe they have the type of towers that we need.
I don't have that answer other than to say my understanding is they're on a proprietary system, and the actual tower for that is not theirs, and it's not at the sheriff's office, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
And we do all the communications for everybody in the county. Well, not everybody in the county. Well, yeah, we communicate with everybody in the county, and whereas they don't have the same system and setup as what we have.
I thought if they built a tower, I guess I was thinking tower for their antenna,
Yeah.
then
I think
we
they just
could
put up a
work with them. And
repeater
it's just a
antenna.
shame
Yeah.
being so close but yet so far away.
Right.
We have an opportunity to partner, but okay.
The only way we could do that, my understanding would be and again, I'm not an expert, but we would have to get onto the same network as what they have, and that's not,
Yeah.
there's a whole other host of issues that will come with that I'd be happy to discuss. But that is not the direction that I think the state or Homeland Security would recommend,
Right.
or the feds.
Well, I think you've put a lot of thought into the dispatch area and operation of your department, as well as department heads have in their areas, that it's a real workable solution. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do you have, Commissioners, if any further questions?
I just have a simple comment to add, and that is to reinforce that cost control is the key in my mind here, that we need to do everything we can to pinch every penny we can to make this project come in lower than the estimates are showing right now. As it appears that costs are increasing, we may need to take a look at other ways to add alternates to this project that will be reducing its cost.
I think we're all in agreement on that. Yeah, everywhere we can and accomplish the same, we should move in that direction where it's feasible. I don't have any other questions myself. Gentlemen?
I have a quick question for staff. In front of me, I have two cost summaries that you prepared for me that have a list of the 60% City Hall base estimate. On the one that you prepared on the 22nd, I show the $4.99 million 60% City Hall base estimate. You also prepared one on 12/9, and that City Hall estimate was $4.3 million. Where was that? Where was the origination of that $4.3 million from? Where did that come from?
Actually, Lacey prepared the first one, but we updated the numbers with the cost estimates we were provided, the new cost estimates.
I see. So it's
And the bid amounts
it was
from
from
the
an
fire
earlier
EMS.
on 12/9. It was from an earlier estimate from McCowan Gordon, or was it from something else?
That was our early starting point, way back when we started.
What date would be that?
I would say that'd be back in about September, Travis, you think? Or Alan, when you guys sent that, we started working on FF&E, and that's where we were trending at that point.
It was October of 2020.
October 2020.
October of 2020. Costs are going up, is what I think I'm seeing there. That's almost a $700,000 increase between those two estimates. So costs are going up.
If I may, that EOPC from October 2020, that was kind of before we really had the scope dialed in. There was a lot of different things that affected from that cost to DD. Mainly the storm shelter. There was really no new addition storm shelters shown when we put that cost together. The exterior waterproofing, that cost was never figured back then. And then the site work, there was no site work included in that very first initial estimate. So that, I mean, you're talking 560,000 site, 300,000 FEMA shelter, and then another 250 for foundation waterproofing repairs.
I understand.
Would you
Thank
run
you.
those figures by one more time, please?
Site work, 560,000, FEMA shelter, 300,000, waterproofing, ventilation, 250,000. And then that estimate also didn't really figure any exterior enclosure, because at that time we assumed all the windows were getting replaced at that time, as well as all the roofing systems.
Have we heard anything about the historic tax credit for phase one?
I haven't heard anything. Vance, have you heard anything?
So, no information has been submitted to the state for phase one. What we have done is we have amended the earlier package to include the ventilation system that we have currently going. So the idea, Commissioner, is that we would continue to roll this project into the previous submittal, and that way at the end of the project, you have a larger dollar amount, which will help you as you look at transferring or selling those tax credits.
Do you have an idea of how much we're looking at for phase one, what the tax credits would be?
No, sir, I do not, and I will do that. After the holidays, I will get with the state and see if we're seeing an increase or a decrease in the value of the credits and report back to the city.
Okay, now, who will be filing that? Is that, just so it doesn't get overlooked that everyone thinks someone else is doing it and we miss it, is that something that you're gonna do, or is that something that staff has to do?
So what we're contracted for is to help provide information to show the Part 2 documents, and the Part 2 shows the scope of work. After construction is done, then we are contracted to provide the after documentation, photographs, and written descriptions that are necessary. But Commissioner, you are correct. It is important that the staff, they will have accounting that will need to be done. There are forms that the city will be responsible for filling out and actually submitting those forms to the state. So we're helping, we're providing information, but the city has a responsibility in completing the accounting for the Part 3 submittal.
Question for Kelly. On Memorial Hall, when we did the windows and the doors and the storm window, did we get that applied for historic tax credit on it?
You mean recently?
Yeah, well, it was when Mickey was here. We
Oh,
redid the doors and all the windows and put the historic storm windows on it. I just wondered if,
I would have to go back and look. I'm not sure.
yeah, we might want to check and see if we've missed that or if we got it applied for. We've had some changes that, you know, you were just assistant city manager then, and that was out of your hands. And I don't even think Dave wasn't here. We've had city clerk changes, director of finance, so I'd hate to see us miss out on some historic tax credits for that work.
Yeah, we can go back and look. I remember we were working with Heckman on that, I believe, and I know there were some discussions about some of that, but that's been a while, so I'd have to go back and look and see.
Yeah,
what
if you would,
occurred.
it would. Okay, well, thank you, Vance, for the information.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any further questions?
I'm good.
I have no further. Appreciate
I'm good.
you
Thank you,
guys
gentlemen.
coming.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, let me back up here. Item O. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go, right here, all righty. This is the estimate summary for.
Are we gonna do O now? Are we gonna? We were gonna do.
Yeah, we were
item
gonna
O.
do O. Yeah, that was the, consider awarding Central Park Stormwater Infrastructure investigation. We were gonna, and then we'll get back to you gentlemen. That's item O. And that's John. This is the, in regards to the Central Park infrastructure.
Yes. Good evening.
Excuse me, John?
Yes.
It might be easier for me to start with the questions and then work back in.
Absolutely.
And you explain everything. We can be more concise since it was as a consent agenda. I was confused when we talked about this earlier. I thought that what we needed was an evaluation or some assessment of the storm drains down in the area. And what I take of what we're seeing is that PEC has recommended or bid to have the storm drains cleaned and other work done for the 27,000 instead of just looking and evaluating and the condition. I thought that's where we were at that time, evaluating the condition.
Yes, it is for evaluation. The cleaning is only ancillary to the evaluating the condition. It's only cleaning enough so that they can do a proper evaluation. That's the extent of the cleaning.
But is it dirty?
We don't know. Again, this is assuming an extremely light cleaning. So this is mostly, those dollars are mostly evaluation, and the cleaning that's in there is assuming that it's mostly not dirty.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to pay them to do something that we don't know the extent of. It seems like if you run a camera down, you'll know real quick. We'll know I hit blockage and I can't go. You know, you can start doing a lot of preliminary, but to go in with only one price of 27,000, and you know, some of the tunnels, the 9-foot brick, that's large enough to walk down and look, or you know, opening manholes to see direction of flow. That's what I was getting some question on. Well, we don't even know for sure where they are. That with PEC doing the civil, they should have had some investigation and known a little bit about directions. You know, they got to go manhole to manhole.
Yes.
And you open a manhole and you've got one going this way and one going that way. They're either going to an inlet or they're going to a manhole. That some of the tracking of it could be done. And you know, we got a camera that, you know, they ran a storm drain a few years back in my block. So, you know, just offer 27,000 without knowing how much cleaning, what is marginal cleaning, or is there any cleaning? Because, you know, usually the storm drains flow pretty good, that there's not a lot of buildup unless we have the case like on 10th Street.
Right, unless we have a collapse.
Yeah, where you get a collapse. But so this proposal is for investigation and some cleaning and
Yeah, and again,
no repairs.
what's that?
No repairs.
There's no repairs in this. And when you look at normal cleaning, essentially just cleaning enough with water in order so that they can do a visual inspection of it. So
Okay. That was my questions.
John, on that, had we already attempted to run a camera?
we have not attempted to run a camera down this.
Okay. I guess I was under the impression that we had, and there were some areas we couldn't get a camera through.
This would be some pretty long runs. The overall if you look at the footage, the tunnel itself is over 1,600 feet, and we certainly can't run it
Sure.
down past that. And it's also we have run storm sewer in the past and have run it successfully. I believe this is probably a little bit beyond what we can do.
Okay. But we do, we have identified, a part of this will be identifying where some of this goes. That's not exactly platted out as to how it lines up and where it tracks.
Yeah, this will give us an exact location of where the storm sewer is located. After our previous meeting, we did find some drawings that indicated a general location of where the storm sewer was.
Okay.
As well as some additional information about that. And actually, it kind of matched up fairly well with what we had assumed based on physical inspection out in the field. But this will give us, our X, Y, and Z. It'll tell us how deep it is and where it is and what its condition is. When you look at it, we could very likely cut the price by, I'm going to say, roughly a third. And that is if we stuck to evaluations only under the areas where we would have the potential to impact the Central Park project. So if we potentially could cut it by a third, that's just off the top of my head. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but in that ballpark. What we wouldn't know then is the condition of the longest storm water run, and that'd be from Penn kind of towards the center of the project where the new outfields would be in the new fields.
I guess with only one bid, it's always hard when you look at that number, and
We did look at additional strategies for this. We looked at incorporating this as part of the contract with the Central Park contractor, with a successful bidder. The nice thing about that is that then the contractor would manage that. The downside is if we found some sort of fault with that, then they're also the change order would be based upon really kind of a single contractor for the change order to do any fixes based on that. So with this, if we did this work, even if we found out there was a change order in connecting to this, in the new connection points to the stormwater system, we could have that done by a third-party contractor. We could price it as a change order to the prime contractor. So that gave us a little bit more options doing it this way. But we did try and think through what other ways could we do this.
I'd be concerned primarily with the 9-foot brick tunnel. If the sidewalls are 9 feet high,
Yeah.
and you got a concrete lid on it, and well, it's not reinforced, so the age of it, the lateral earth pressure on the sides, we've had shorter brick tunnels collapse already, so the unknown. Yeah, it's only having one bid that really, and amount of money.
And then we'll have to penetrate that in order to bring new stormwater into it, and also modify it so that you don't end up erosion on the opposite side of the stormwater inflows. I mean, so it could be a non-trivial. Hopefully, it's not bad, but it could be not trivial. I mean, it could be significant.
Yeah, on Birch Street, about 5 or 6 years ago, half a block collapsed. And it was a 4-foot, I think, sidewall that was brick they use the cap as a sidewalk. So a 9-foot non-reinforced brick wall, it might be 8-inch. I don't know if it'd be 12-inch, 3 courses of brick.
Yeah.
2, I could guess. So the unknown condition in 1,600 feet. And if you're going to do part of it, it just doesn't make sense not to do the whole length.
That was the conclusion that we came to on this as well.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to get more bidders.
All right, any further questions?
I have none.
I have none. We're good, Leonard?
We're not good, but I don't have any
Yeah.
more questions. I'd sure like to see it a lot lower in multiple bids.
I'm with you. I was expecting approximately 20% less, 20 to 30% less, and I was hoping to see multiple bidders, and so I was disappointed when I saw that as well.
Yeah. So, I guess one last question. In your professional opinion, your recommendation is still to proceed?
Yes, and in fact, I talked to Sean Turner was here, and we walked out when we saw that this was pulled out, and this was the only item that he had potential to bear on. And so we both agree that we should move ahead with this one. Again, it's I would really like to give it to a contractor, but then we lose control on the back end, where we might see much more significant expenses
Right.
if we see that there is a significant deterioration in the stormwater system itself.
Thank you. No more, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
So with that, I entertain a motion, gentlemen.
I move to authorize awarding the Central Park Stormwater Infrastructure Investigation HK Solutions for the cost of $26,490.
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Thank you. All right, item for commission action. A, consider authorizing a contract for construction of the fire EMS addition. Gentlemen, again.
I'm gonna turn it over to Chris with Trainer to kick it off, and then we'll jump in when he's wrapped up.
Yes, this is Chris Berkmeyer, Trainer HL. First of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners for helping us get to this point in this project. We've worked hard trying to figure out exactly what the fire department needs and how we can represent that and also maintain budgets. So thank you for your guidance and direction. I'm excited to be at this point. We've done a lot of design work, but now it kind of becomes more real. Thank you, city staff and the fire department for, letting us show you different ways to try to achieve your goals and maybe bringing us back to what you actually need as opposed to what we think you need. And lastly, but not leastly, thank you, McCown Gordon. They've tried to manage all of us, and the staff and the fire department and our design team, to try to keep us in our budget and make sure our scope's covered and the ability to communicate that with our documents and the bidding process. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of interpretations, and I think they've done a great job of kind of bringing that all back to this presentation and hopefully moving forward. McCown Gordon, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Chris, thanks for the kind words. It's been a journey and a pleasure from our end as well. Again, Travis Huffman and Jake Oberleichner with McCown Gordon Construction. I believe we have Alan Youngers on the phone. Extremely competitive bid process. We had over 70 trades bid on 18 to 20 packages, so really good turnout from a market participation. A commitment that McCown Gordon gave the city when you guys hired us as your construction manager at risk was local participation. Right now, our low bidders, we are currently carrying 4 local trades, which equals about 20% of the actual packages. So we were very impressed and happy with the local turnout. We'll get into the numbers, but I do want to talk a little bit. There's several alternates that are being considered and proposed. David, you and I had talked about what's the best way to present this. We're here to answer any questions related to pricing or scope, but I believe from your end, there's some recommendations on a request.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't know the best way we presented to you guys. Sean, the fire department, we reviewed this and we recommended some alternates. I don't know if you have questions. The RCA does explain why we would like to have those alternates, but ultimately it's your guys' decision. But we're here to answer any questions about those alternates and what your thoughts are as you guys work through that decision.
Pardon me, David, I don't understand what you're saying. There are 14 ad alternates listed in a group here.
Yes.
Are all of those your recommendations from the fire
We-
and EMS department?
We recommended 12 of the 14 that we would like to see in the fire department added to the scope. But again, ultimately, I mean, that's our recommendation. You guys will make the ultimate decision of what you guys feel needs to be in the building. We're here to answer those questions for you guys. If you have specific questions of why we thought that was an important alternate to add to the project.
Maybe it would be best to go through these, what you're asking?
Yeah.
Now, for instance, on number one, the addition to the apparatus bay was going to allow for Tower 1 to exit on the north,
Yes.
right, but that was the only opening on the north side.
Chris, I believe what we're talking about is 2 additional openings on the north side for ambulances towards the west end, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
That's-
we have power, the ladder truck will be able to drive through.
Right.
Enter on the north and drive through the station and exit on the south. This alternate number 1 is including 2 additional openings in the existing building to help some of the other pumper trucks and vehicles either drive through or exit on both sides of the vehicle, or of the station, without having to move another vehicle. So that's what that first alternate is.
There was a note on exclusions of structural support of the existing apparatus bay. Did you check to see if those doors are going to need portal frames to help with lateral support? You're not taking out any lateral support X-bracing in the sidewall for those doors, are you?
No, I don't.
Correct. If anything's being removed, we're adding new steel back to support the opening and the existing frames.
Okay, was what was confusing with the exclusion, said no structural support, I thought, for the existing building. So I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons it got fairly expensive. When they design pre-engineered buildings, they use the least amount of steel, screws, metal, whatever bracing they can to make that a successful building. But when we go in there and modify it, we have to add quite a bit to make it maintain the strength and integrity of the structure. That alternate also has the exterior improvements as well. The paving on the north side of the site to kind of get us, I'll call it an apron, to get us in and out of those 2 bays.
Just a point of clarification that may help with the document. So that the clarifications are based off the base bid. So the base bid does not include these additional openings.
Oh, okay.
And so the alternate would then include the structural improvements.
Okay. I thought it was all inclusive. Thank you.
These are all adds. All of these alternates are adds. So we try to take everything that we drew and we think the fire department needs, and then we backed out some of the items that they might not have right now, but definitely need, for lack of a better word, and they became alternates and additions to our base bid.
All right. The 2, 3, and 4 makes sense, being that the current heating system is undersized, and that would be in the need for additional tube heaters, and to require minimum temperatures as required by KSA. The vehicle exhaust is needed due to the living quarters now being attached to the apparatus bay, and with the potential of carbon monoxide, I understand that. Number 4, the overhead fans to keep the apparatus bay cool and air circulating during the summer months. And I know that the medications that the ambulances carry have to be stored under 90 degrees. Then we're getting to number... Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
One thing to those 3 items, the apparatus bay as it is right now, and for lack of a better word, I think it was initially a temporary solution, something that they needed but wasn't fully built out. Those items actually bring that apparatus storage area up to something that I would consider as normal. If we were to design a fire station, that all those things would be included in it. If it was more of a permanent structure, I'll call it, or a permanent solution to the needs.
All right, thank you.
Now, the fans are just overhead ceiling fans.
Yes, they're very large ones that move a lot of volume of air, and so they help maintain cooling for the people who are working in that space. and the items that are parked in that space or stored in that space until they're needed. So they'll just turn those fans on as opposed to air conditioning that area. They'll just turn the fans on, let the air move, so they'll have some circulation.
Okay, it's still gonna be difficult to keep the temperature on a 96-degree day down to 90. The fans are just
Yeah.
gonna keep it at ambient temperature.
Yes, that isn't really ideal, but it's as best we can do for what they've already got. I mean, I'd love to air condition that apparatus bay, but the cost of that was way over what we thought we could afford or the city could afford.
Well, with that many doors and then opening, it'd be impossible to keep it. So in all solutions, then this is the best that we've got. This is about all practical you can do, other than next would be to rotate out the meds. Is that what you said you had to do, David?
Yeah, well, we those meds we change them out in 30 days. In other words, we bring them out of the cool, and we're allowed to keep them on the trucks for 30 days, and then they're disposed of.
Yeah, so during the summer, you really monitor the temperature in the building
Yes.
and
Yep, we have to go
your
into
meds.
a process where
Yeah,
we have several. So,
So-
I mean, it's something we handle now.
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about these alternate guys. These are Sean and I's, these are our wishes, but we also understand you gentlemen are making decisions, budgets and money, and these things are nice. Can we get by without those 2 extra doors and we run everything out the front other than the tower? Yes, we can make it work. Would it be nice to have those additional doors and do that? Yes, but, I mean, we understand that. Sean, you can come up. I mean, feel free to say. But, I mean, these are, yes, we're going to say yes. We would like those. We run 5 different ambulances. We don't have to move a grass truck out of the way, or if we got to transfer, pull a truck out and then get another truck. But, you know, we also understand that's $82,000.
Well, it's different on a transfer than when you're responding to a multiple injury accident,
Yeah.
or,
Yes.
me having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to go
Absolutely.
slow.
The fire department responds on, it's all about time.
Right.
And any, we can then, reduce that amount of time for response. We're talking about lives, and I don't know how to quantify that, but
Okay.
it's very important for them to be able to function and move and get multiple vehicles out either at the same time or simultaneously. So that's my 2 cents, but
And yeah, I agree that there's some places you can cut, but then when you're looking at an emergency facility, you sure want it to operate at optimum capacity at this time.
And we look at it too, we don't see anything happening for 50 years, so, I mean, we want to build it. If we're going to do it, we don't want to come back to you in 2 years and say, sorry, guys, we missed something and we need $50,000. So, I mean,
Right.
we're hoping to get it right.
Then we're going to number 5, screen for patio for privacy from public view. That would be on the north side also.
yes, this is just a screen back there on that patio area to try to kind of, they're there 24 hours a day in multiple shifts. I think there are 3 shifts for 48 hours. So they spend time, they live there.
Right.
So when they're not out responding, that's an area that we thought would be nice to shield them from anyone that would drive by or go by and say, oh, there's the fire department not doing anything anymore. It's kind of a nice screen, if you will, to keep them from being on display in the public.
And a wind block.
Oh, definitely weather. Yes, we had a roof on that area as well, and I think there might be another item later that talks about some of the expense of those items. If we can give them a roof and a screen, a place to kind of hang out and even cook or eat out there, it kind of lets their service become a little bit more hospitable.
They do like to grill and smoke and smoked meat, and so that'd be a good place to store those, and then the fence would have those out of public view.
Then you have number 6, wavy baffles in the day room to keep the noise down in the living area of the quarters.
Yes. Basically, what we've done is we've added. I think there's a couple of those items in this. There's areas. This is a pre-engineered building, so it's going to be fairly open, and there's a lot of hard surfaces, hard floors, walls. Some areas are minimal ceilings. We're trying to add kind of a design element, but also let it be an acoustical treatment, so that we don't have a lot of reverberation, which is kind of an echo effect. So when you walk into those spaces that are hard, meaning no carpet, no lay-in ceilings, we want to add these types of items to help with that baffling sound or absorbing that sound, so you don't walk into it and it turns into an echo chamber.
Okay, and then you're looking at panels in the weight room. That's also noise related in the gym.
Yes, same item, yes. We've got a large space, a lot of hard surfaces. Usually when you work out, there's sometimes maybe music playing or people talking or things slamming or banging, and we're trying to minimize that amount of acoustic interference with the rest of the station. And to be honest, those items, once the facility's built, they can be added if there is an issue or a concern, and they can be added at any time. We just wanted to kind of propose or provide an aesthetic or a design solution for when they're needed. And those are pretty simple to not have to have day one, although we can add them at any point. So.
Okay. And then an overhead fan. This will be in what area?
Exercise room.
The exercise room.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the exercise or workout space, and those, it's similar to the fan in the apparatus space. Instead of trying to rely on a cooling system for that area, it does have cooling, but what we can do is, as long as you can move a large volume of air at a low velocity, it's amazing how much that will help the feel of that space, to keep it cool, or even to push warm air down in the winter, as opposed to trying to maintain the temperature of a thermostat. So that's an item we have found in the past to be successful for those spaces. It's a little bit expensive, so it became an alternate that hopefully we can get, but if not, we understand.
$18,326 is kind of expensive for a fan in an air-conditioned room.
Yeah.
There should
it's
be-
a fan.
There should be other fans that could move low volume velocity air around cheaper than $18,000.
Yes, I think it's power and conduit, electric, all the wiring, all that. Congo will have to speak to that, but I think it incorporates a lot. But yes, you can set a fan on the floor and it can move air around. It's nice to pull it from above and try to move air through those spaces. And if we have to research, additional kind of fans for that space, we will.
Yeah. Yeah, I think other options than $18,000.
Number 9, ceramic tile in the lobby.
Yes, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, we're trying to add a level of finish, if you will, as you walk into the building, and that's just tile floor in that lobby. We presented it. Everyone kind of liked the color and the aesthetic of that. Right now, our base bid without this alternate, it's just sealed concrete.
Okay, and then number 10, display case for fire department memorabilia.
Very similar. As you walk into that lobby, there's a couple of display cases as you walk into the kind of training or EOC space. We've designed some areas to display, and hopefully a lot of times it turns into the history of the fire department, the history of independence, maybe it's things that are currently going on in the city. that they display there and people see it. It's more of something to showcase. And so we felt like, do you have to have it? No, but it would be nice to kind of provide some space for them to, show those things to the public as they come in and use the space.
And then number 12, this is working with mannequins and practicing care for patients. This is carpet on a finish that was just concrete.
Yes, I think we jumped number 11 too, and we had a sectional door in the exercise room. Number 11 is there just to kind of provide a space where they can open up that door and let the workouts or the training go from outside to inside, kind of an interior-exterior space. It's an additional $3,000 compared to just the storefront, which would have just windows, which are not necessarily operable. The carpet in the training room, very similar to the lobby. We're adding carpet in there, and that also helps with, the reverberation, the sound. It kind of creates a different finish and feeling in a space. As we all know, as opposed to walking into a sealed concrete room, it would be a finished space, finished floor in that space.
Right. Okay, number 13, it shows not needed. And 14, we're looking about flooring. That will be in the training room, and that's also just a concrete finish floor. And this is to contain noise from weights hitting the concrete and allow for exercises that are done on the floor.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. It would provide us a flooring that's designed for a workout facility or a training/workout facility, which would be much more conducive than a hard concrete floor where weights are being dropped or people are moving. There's more there than just noise. Athletic flooring helps with kind of a resiliency and how your legs, your feet, and bones interact with that flooring system. And so that was there to kind of protect everyone who would be using that space and to help with noise. But we realized it doesn't have to be there for this facility to work, so it became an alternate.
All right.
That was a lot.
There was a lot.
We tried to do this to try to help with the overall, project budget or cost. And so these items, in my humble opinion, is a lot of them are needed. Some of them are, maybe not needed day one. But we wanted to make it your decisions and to help us make the right decisions for the city and the fire department and make their, job as easy as possible and serve the community. Not serve us. None of these things help us as designers, but they definitely help the community. And we kind of felt like if we bring you guys into this decision process, we can all be successful.
And this is a long-term facility. This is something that's gonna be around for a good number of years. So.
Yeah, I think we've made this commitment to this site, this physical location of this building, until the city grows large enough that we have substations or another fire station. This is kind of the admin space, and then other substations might develop in the next maybe 10 to 20 years. Who knows?
Yeah, that's hard to tell. Hard to tell that's going to work out. So we're looking at that for. Like David mentioned earlier, 50-year time frame, which I'll be long gone before that.
Well, the building will be there for that long, but I don't know if it will serve all the community needs in 50 years.
Sure.
That's a good question.
Right. I understand. A lot of things can happen between now and then.
Then on the deducts, the recommendation was to take or not to take any of the deducts. The one that I question is the full view glass bay doors, providing on each door instead of one at 10,000, we can save $10,000 if we go with just one section on each door. And I guess I question in my mind the need. I know it looks nice to see the fire trucks, but we're in a residential area that doesn't have a lot of public traffic down there, and just if we can save $10,000. It's my thought on that deduct.
Yeah, I don't see those in front of me on the screen, but I know we were looking at additional, these are all add alternates, the ones that I see, 1 through 12.
Yeah.
But the deducts had a couple of items in there, trying to help us get it closer and closer back to a lower number. Visibility into the app bays, it provides a couple of things. Natural light, that's always good. I mean, anytime you're working in a space or an office or at home, and you can bring in that natural light and see outside and see what's going on, that's a benefit. Do we need the entire door or 4 sections of that door to be natural light? Probably not. The other thing it does, for lack of a better word, and I don't know if this is the right word either, but the fire department, has a lot of expensive equipment, and it's what protects the community. And so there's a kind of a, for lack of a better word again, it's showcasing that equipment and letting people see those apparatus that everyone has spent so much money on, millions of dollars on. It's kind of nice as the public to go through there and see that space, see that equipment, and know that they're ready to respond. And that's really, like you said, that's really the only reason for those items. If it's a $10,000 savings and we think we ought to entertain that, then I understand that completely, of course. Those alternates and those deducts are really all about your values at this point.
Right.
In the fire department, of course, and the community. So those items are what you guys value as being important or not important. And that's the best we can do, is give you options and let your values follow through in the scope of the project, not ours. This was supposed to be McCown Gordon's presentation. I feel like I've talked the whole time.
Like it's Sean on the doors. Tell me why you want the whole door.
Well, it was just like he said, a lot of fire departments are like that, where the public can see the trucks and more lighting, but we totally understand your position. We can live without them, I mean, that's a want.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a need.
Yeah, I know it's $10,000, which isn't a whole lot, but I'm thinking, is there somewhere else better to spend the $10,000? I know, you and I talked about training, eventually a training tower. There's so much that you see that our firefighters need to be prepared for different situations. The only way is to train, and there's situations that if that $10,000 could be used in training to prepare them to protect them as they enter a fire or arrive on scene, that would be much better than having full view doors.
I'm not going to disagree.
And the difference between those doors is one's a kind of steel door with, kind of punched openings, and the other door is an aluminum door with like glass panels. So there is a difference. The existing doors are steel doors, and they have the punched openings, if you will, and this other one is a kind of, yes. That's why that number is aluminum, right, extruded aluminum with window panels.
I envisioned it to be the same door that would have full glass per section and have a insulated metal panel where the glass would have been.
No, they are not the same. But our first, drawings and renderings, of course, this was back when we were
Right.
hoping and wishing for the best, is we had a replacement of those existing doors, at least on the south side, of all being kind of aluminum with window pane. And then we pulled that back to just at least the new door, that, it's the ladder truck. And so we thought, if it's a new door, maybe we could get that door at least.
We're not talking apples to apples even. The aluminum
No.
door is going to be much more rigid. It's going to be operating better, the hinges, the attachments. And going to
Yeah,
be,
it's built like a storefront system, right, with extruded aluminum
Right.
and the way it's going to operate, as opposed to the quote-unquote generic metal building doors, which was fine for a temporary use, but now
Yeah.
this is more of a permanent use. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that out. That changes perspective a little bit because it is, even though it's got a lot of glass, it's still a stronger door structurally to operate, less problems with the door racking and twisting.
exactly, performance and lower maintenance, those are huge items to help
Right.
minimize anything you have to do later, and that door is going to function for quite a while. I don't know how many cycles, but I'm going to say 500 plus, of course, maybe 1,000 plus, quite a few.
Oh, well, that helped more than anything. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for Chris or Travis or Sean?
So I do want to talk a little bit about the schedule as well. Obviously, it's a pretty volatile market, really good trade participation, so we're sitting in a good spot. There's two significant lead times that are going to dictate the start of the construction, and that's both the metal building as well as the generator. We talked about that earlier. Unique lead time of 30 weeks on that backup generator. What that would do is it would put our start of construction with the GMP approved today. Contracts would go out next week, and we would start the procurement of those two significant items. That would put us at a start in April with a completion in November of '22. And then I would like to just talk about the progression of the estimate with the number that we had previously had at the last update, and then some of the cost drivers that contributed to that.
Yeah, so we initially, back in November 12, we provided a 60% check set estimate update at 2.611. And then today, I guess what we're presenting is that 2.7 number. So we were up 6 to 7% overall from that budget. A couple of the drivers to that mainly was in the site concrete number. Scope was not clearly defined at the time of 60% CDs, so there was additional paving to the south of that existing apparatus bay, cutting out that existing paving. I believe it was the two doors to the east to make that grade work with the new apparatus bay. And then mechanical increases. So there's additional gas piping relocation in that existing apparatus bay that moved from the east side to the west side, as well as some additional cord reels in that apparatus bay, and then a grease trap and a type 2 kitchen hood. So overall, that was about a $48,000 increase on mechanical, $100,000 on the site concrete, and then our glazing number from our budget back in November was up about $25K, and mainly due to aluminum material price increases, as well as the ultra thermal doors and framing. We did not anticipate that at the 60% estimate.
That's about $173,000, what that comes out to.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any more questions for these gentlemen here, or Chris? We need some conversation as commissioners, do you?
I don't have any more questions for him.
Mr. Hayes?
I don't have any questions regarding architectural or construction concerns.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. So, we've gone through and we've looked at these 14 items that have been recommended by the fire and EMS that they would like to see incorporated into this building. From what I understand, the one that popped up that was seemed to be a pretty good amount for an overhead fan was the item number 8, the $18,300 one. So that is one that we would consider to not needed. And looking at the others that we've looked at here, is there anything else that,
With an understanding of the different quality of doors, I think the full view would provide longer lasting, better performing
okay,
door than the single view. And I think we should leave the recommendation to not accept that deduct.
okay. So at this point, looking at the 14, we're, the number 8 is the one that we are eliminating?
Yes.
The overhead fan for $18,300.
And that could be investigated and an option brought back with a change order. Couldn't it, Vance or Chris? Or
Yes, we'll look for different options for that fan. Try to get something more affordable and something more along the lines of what we're trying to achieve, so, yeah.
and it could be handled with a change order.
Yeah, no problem. In the long run, those fans actually, like your home, ceiling fan will save you money in the long run because it helps circulate that air. It brings the hot air down and the cold air up, and so that really helps move that air that's already to the point where you need it. So in other words, it will help save costs in the long run, and moving air is always better than stagnant. So we'll work on that.
All right, thank you. So that's gonna get us to, let me see here. So we're looking at item number, or suggested motion number 2, and that we will, for now, remove item number 8. As a deduct. And then the cost of the alternates was $304,764. Which would bring that to $3,093,575, and then minus the 18,300. If my math is good, is that 285? Okay, hang on here a minute. My math isn't good. Let me back up here. Okay.
Was it $3,075,249?
That's what I came up. I came up with alternates at 286,438 with a. Then the GMP would be 3,075,249. Is that what you get, Travis?
Yeah, David, I agree with that number, and I just want to make sure we're clear that would then reject alternate 8,
It's 8.
13,
Yes.
and 11.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, accept the alternates as presented by staff with the deletion of item 8.
Yep.
This,
8, 11, and 13.
Yeah, I simplified it by just
Sure.
their recommendation.
From their recommendation. Yeah.
13. Okay.
So 3,075,249 is. Did you come up with that number too?
We had the same alternate number. I just want to make sure that the
Yeah.
totals
Yep.
correct.
Swanker, did you check it?
Okay. So we're in agreement with the amount of $3,075,249. That's where we're sitting at. Okay. With that, I entertain a motion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I do have a few comments before
Oh.
you call for the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I sit here in protest of this entire conversation. It's a lot of wasted words for me. This $3 million is part and parcel of a almost $11 million expenditure that the city is leaning into at this point. I protest the timing of this conversation, as it is not in the city's best interest to proceed without knowing the total cost. And we are proceeding on a $3 million expenditure that is leading into the remaining $7 million of expenditures, and I find that I find it irresponsible. I find it rushed and rash, and I wish we could forestall it and bring it all together in a single number that we can then consider as how it would be financed, and how, if it is in fact the right way to spend the next $10.7 million of capital here in this city of Independence. I'm disappointed that we have rushed this as we have, and I wish we could look at it all together. So I do not wish to proceed with this $3 million or any additional investment of this nature until we can actually put it against other priorities that the city might elevate that would be of use to the city and of benefit to the city, and weigh it against those other priorities. The reason this is the number one priority right now, I do not understand. And I don't intend to support any action to move forward. I think it's a multi-million-dollar mistake. Thank you.
We've been working on this project for years. So to say that it's been rushed,
This portion has been rushed, Mr. Mayor.
we are following the recommendations that were part of the steering committee, which some of us were a part of, and that included the renovation of the 1916 City Hall. And we have been able to integrate the police department back into that facility. And that left us with fire and EMS personnel needing a facility to occupy. And this was one of the options. There were two options that were considered when the steering committee came back to the commission at that time. And one was to renovate the 1916 City Hall, and which was B, option B, and one was to construct a fire and EMS addition. And that is what we are doing. That study was back in, steering committee was back in, Kelly help me, was that in
June of 2016.
2016,
Was
okay,
the
I was
final
going to say in 2016, I didn't know the month. So we've been working at this for a long time. And this is what the commission was, we agreed to follow through with what the recommendation was. And the people that I've had contact with are on board with that. The renovation should continue with the phase 2 for the 1916 City Hall. And they did have some concerns about the fire and EMS. But I've also heard from people that are wondering, why are we still negotiating this? They feel like this had already been decided to move in this direction. So I've heard from both sides. And it's been a long process that we've gone through to get to this point. But this is why we're sitting on the commission. This is what we've come to at this point. And with all the time and invested with staff, the department heads, the commission, input from the public, we've reached a point to where we need to move forward on this. So I entertain a motion. Mr. Kaflish?
I move to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with McCowan Gordon for the guaranteed maximum price of $3,075,249 that reflects the base bid plus the alternates as recommended by the staff with the deletion of item 8.
And I second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-1. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good Christmas and New Year's.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Item B, consider adopting an ordinance amending the subdivision regulations pertaining to procedures for minor subdivisions replats, amending and repealing the existing subdivision regulations. Kelly.
Mayor, this is another one of our efforts trying to streamline some of our processes to encourage development. We have somebody wanting to do some development in an area that has several vacant lots that are adjoined. They've bought all the vacant lots. There actually is a street that was platted that runs between the lots that they purchased. They wish to develop that with 1 or 2 single-family houses rather than all the individual lots. By having the minor replat process, it simplifies it a little more. Doing a full plat requires all the property owners within that plat to sign off on. It requires several steps, going to the planning commission and then here. The minor replat would be for an area that was already platted, where they're simply combining those lots and doing what's called a minor replat. We would review it first, and then it would go to the governing body. So it would expedite that process and hopefully not deter some potential development. And we've ran into this, previously too, and as you'll look at, there are areas that have empty vacant lots that it is advantageous for them to join those because the type of housing that they desire today may not be what that was originally platted for many years ago. The Planning Commission did recommend it unanimously. We did have a zoning attorney help us with the language to modify our code. It actually was somebody that worked at the firm, and along with Neil Shortledge, who actually helped write our zoning code many, many years ago. And she had worked actually with Neil on some things later on, and so I'm very comfortable with her expertise. So it's our recommendation to adopt the ordinance.
Basically cleaning up some of the red tape that's involved in replatting.
Yes.
And making the process a little more streamlined and easier, rather than having to jump through a lot of hoops to get something accomplished.
Yes.
So that's good for, as long as it meets the other everything else that it needs to meet concerning the regulations, and that's a good thing. It just simplifies a process that needs to be simplified, and I think this will do it here. So. And we had a nice conversation about it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things we need to work on. This is one that came up, and so we just started with that. And the city of Lawrence had a similar code that I found that this is modeled after, that they have used successfully. So.
Okay, great. Well, I don't have any questions for you. Commissioners?
I have no questions.
There are a lot of vacant lots in town that this would expedite their acquisition if it passes, so I'm in support of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, I entertain a motion.
I move to accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission and adopt an ordinance amending the subdivision regulations pertaining to procedures for minor subdivision / replats, amending and repealing the existing subdivision regulations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Excuse me. Item C, consider adopting an ordinance modifying the processing procedure for conditional use permits.
And Mayor and Commissioners, this is another similar type item as far as trying to make the process a little easier and not so cumbersome when we have someone apply for a conditional use permit. The main purpose of a conditional use permit is handled exactly like a zoning as far as the hearing notices and things like that. It really deals with land use. So you have you have a permitted and conditional use table. And it tells you if there's a P, it's permitted. If there's a C, it's a conditional use. So if there's nothing on that box, it means it's not allowed. And so that's how we determine what requires a conditional use and what is a permitted use. many of the conditional uses we get, in fact, the majority of them, are in an existing structure. The most common one's a daycare and a residential structure, in which case they require a conditional use permit. Our code required all kinds of things relating to building and construction and things like that that wouldn't even apply to that kind of situation. It was in there, it had been in there for years, we just knew it didn't apply, so we didn't require that, but technically the language did state, black and white, that we needed that, even though it didn't really apply. So we've had some situations like that. We've also had situations where, depending on what they're doing, if it's speculative and they don't know whether or not the land use is going to get approved, it's an expense for them to spend all these additional monies on specific site plans and things like that are going to be required in the building permit process anyway and be reviewed at that process. And we're concerned about deterring people from wanting to make improvements and wanting to develop and things like that. So there's a strikeout version of what was modified. The city attorney actually prepared this one. He prepared the strikeout language, and I think Jeff did a really good job on it. And it's very clear on what's modified. It does say if the staff thinks that they should have something additional, that it's going to be important, because different areas, you have different drainage concerns, you have different things like the Dollar General that they were looking at putting in. That was kind of in a hole. There was drainage issues. You would want to make sure that you looked at that as part of that land use on how that could affect those neighbors. Other areas that may be flat is not going to have the issues, things like that. So, I mean, you can't compare everything everything's a little bit different. So it gives you that latitude. It also, of course, the Planning Commission can always require additional information as part of their hearing process. They could adjourn the hearing to the next one to say, hey, we want this and this and that. Another thing they can do is they can approve a conditional use permit that has conditions saying that you will provide this before your certificate of occupancy is approved, which is what we do. And we've had that happen before. It's once they get the project done, if they haven't met everything in the conditional use permit, we don't give them their certificate of occupancy. So that is basically how it works. Also, when it comes to you to consider, you also can modify the conditions. You can also ask for additional information. So I feel like it's still flexible, but it just kind of cleans up some language and makes it easier for us to administer.
All right, Kelly, thank you for the explanation. Any questions for Kelly, commissioners?
I have none.
It makes sense to make the conditional use permit more custom to the building or the proposed use. Contours are critical, as in the Dollar General, that you could see the 9 foot of fill at the back of the site, but to require that on an existing building, it's not necessary in a lot of the other features. So it is an improvement of our code, and will save some money from the developers for sure.
All right. Well, with that, I entertain a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopt an ordinance modifying the processing procedure for conditional use permits.
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Item D, consider adopting a resolution setting the date of February 24th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. for a public hearing to consider condemnation of 317 South 2nd Street as dangerous and unsafe. David?
Mayor, we had a publication error, so we just need to reset this public hearing for February 24th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Just so the commission is aware, the owner is considering using money he gets back on taxes, and he is doing some research for contractors and in an attempt to try to fix it up. But he understands the process we're going through. So
Right.
this actually works a little better for him, gives him a little more time before the public hearing to see if
Okay.
he can get some things in place.
Okay, good, good. That's good to hear. I wish him luck. Maybe he can come up with a plan to, yeah,
Get it fixed.
get it fixed and,
Yep.
and save the property. All right, so I don't have any other questions. Gentlemen, are we good with this?
I am. I'm prepared to make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to adopt a resolution setting the date of February 24th, 2022 at 5:30 PM for a public hearing to consider condemnation of 317 South Second Street as dangerous and unsafe.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Item 6. We've all had a chance to look at these city board minutes. Item B, December 2021 Public Works Report. That would be John.
Good evening.
All right, John?
I think it was going to take a little longer. Apologize for the delay. I'm going to start off, before I get to the report, I want to talk about a couple of activities of which the Commission's aware of, but I just want to let you know, in one case, how one of them is going, and then the other, how it went. The first is, we applied for and received a grant from the Federal Highway Administration to look at our roads for safety. And previously, Commission was sent out this report, but it's not the report yet. This is just kind of the front end where they're looking at our roads and they're trying to determine how we can make them safer. And we had our first meeting face-to-face on Monday, and actually several Federal Highway Administration folks from Washington came down, along with KDOT and along with some local Federal Highway Administration people, and we talked really about safety on Indy streets. They looked at them statistically. They took, a decade's worth of data on injuries, and they're looking at places where they're going to make suggestions on how we can make things better. So it's this process actually won't be done until next February, and by next February I mean 2023, not 2022. But it's something which I personally have felt was fascinating. If you note here, this shows the accident locations on the non-state highways. That's one of the errors they made here. They didn't understand that we own and control the state highways as well that go through town. So this will be updated with that. But it was nice to see that information. And again, I think they're going to help us with low and very low cost ways to increase safety, as well as some things that might be more expensive over time. But again, they were extremely helpful, and there's a wealth of information that they provided to us. So just kind of wanted to give kind of an interim update on that, since we had a relatively major event. So I think that this grant is, I think we've had tens of thousands of dollars worth of technical support already, and it hasn't cost us a dime. So, except for lunch, we did pay for lunch. So I do think that when we get finished with this, I think it's something that will be actionable, and I think it's something that will increase the safety of our streets. So I'm very, very, very pleased with where we are on that. So that's the first thing. So that's things we're doing. Things we have done. Previously, the commission approved an energy study for temporary city hall, and we got it back. And so it was very nice because they can decrease the airflow in the building by 29%, which will decrease the electrical usage by the air handlers by 50%. And just that alone is going to save us, tens of thousands of dollars in a year. So if you look at the deal, the way I would put it, it's about $50,000 a year in savings. I believe that number to be understated, potentially significantly understated. And in fact, the person who wrote the report and stamped it said, yeah, it's probably understated, but I'm putting my stamp on it. So I believe these are real dollars. The way we get them is after tonight, I'll talk to PEC, and again, unless the commission or anyone on the commission tells me not to, I'm going to contact PEC and tell them to come up with a request for proposal, which should cost. We approved originally $15,000 for the study. There was $1,000 left over at this point, so it's approximately $4,000 more to do the RFP and get that engineered properly. And then we'll get someone in to rebalance the fans. And we'll run that RFP. It's, the cost should be lower than commission approval, but I'll keep you aware of what's going on. And we'll get that RFP out there, and we'll have people come rebalance the fans, and we'll pull the filters at that time. We've already done some things on the report. The chiller temperature was around 60 degrees, and we're keep raising it. We're going to raise it until it impacts the humidity inside the building, which as of this point it hasn't. We're going to call our controls people and tell them, hey, it's the weekend. Nobody's on the first floor on the weekend. Shut everything, shut all the HVAC down to the first floor. And by the way, this section of the basement's unoccupied, so you can shut that down too. So we'll make sure that there's nothing that's occupied, for instance, the firefighters' quarters, that is not being, doesn't have HVAC, but we'll shut down, first floor, come Friday evening, and then it won't start back up until early Monday morning. So good news all the way around, and I think, again, the way I look at it is we will make back every dollar that we've spent so far, plus every dollar that we will spend before December of next year. So, I mean, you talk bets. I mean, this is one I would pay for with my personal money in a heartbeat, and I'm kind of frugal. So this is a really good deal. So just kind of an update on that. Any questions on that one?
Now, just keep in mind the renovation of 1916
Yes.
City Hall, so we aren't spending when we're going to relocate.
Yes, absolutely. And in this case, we should have recouped every dollar that we would have spent on these changes.
Yeah.
And plus, every year thereafter, for whoever owns that building, that's going to be savings. And even if the building were dormant for time, HVAC would need to be provided to prevent its deterioration. So unless, so it pays back in almost any scenario I can think of.
Yeah, it's so simple. If you're not there, turn it off.
Well, if you're not,
To a point.
well, the problem is because of the way that the building's constructed, as soon as you start to turn off those systems, you start to gather moisture, and then over time, the building will become extremely expensive to renovate and reuse.
But on a weekend, you're not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely on a weekend.
yeah. The problem you have when you have large spaces that are unoccupied, you still need to rotate your system
Yes,
to keep air moving, or mold will start growing, and
absolutely.
then you're going backwards. So,
And to a certain extent, those systems, well, yes, but you're exactly correct.
uh,
So good news.
Good news.
Two good newses to start with. Then, as usual, I'll start at the end. EPA plans for water treatment. That report was complete. The plan is in place, and it's certified with the EPA, so that'll be leaving us this month. Also should be leaving us this month, Whiskey Creek clearing. That work, I need to go back and check on it, but that was nearing completion, so we should be done, if not, so this should be the last time we'll be seeing that on the report. Moving up new into the report, we'll get the Public Works building up there, since we have got approval to do the very front end work to determine pricing on that building. And likewise, the bridge inspections will go to the top, but that'll disappear fairly quickly because those bridge inspections should be done by February, and so we're right on schedule on those. The interesting parts in the middle, tonight we already talked about Central Park, Fire EMS, water line and meter project. We should have 90% plans there in late January. Enterprise Drive, that bids in January. And we have been working with Precision as well to make sure that their needs are taken account of in that work. Let's see. 10th and Main, we will be seeing an RCA at some point. We've been working with KDOT as well as Trans Systems for the water line replacement under the section that'll be repaved. And as soon as we get that through with the contractor, we'll bring that as an RCA for a change order to that contract. And Kittyland Sidewalk has kicked off, and the first change order was approved tonight with some playground equipment. And the restroom should be kicking off shortly. They're getting ready to go. They're ordering things, so we're moving right along there. And we're staying busy.
Great. Yeah, it's great news to hear, John. A lot of work.
Yes.
A lot of work, a lot of planning.
A lot of things to keep straight, so we're doing our best.
Yeah. Right.
I appreciate the work you're putting into the report. It's very concise, it's easy to follow, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Item C, report on the fire at 725 North Penn Avenue.
Mayor, just real quickly, kudos to Sean and the firemen. This was a fully involved structure that was moving to both houses on the north and the south. So tremendous job getting that stopped. However, the structure, as you can see, was in very bad shape. We tried to with city crews, but we just couldn't reach it with our small backhoes. So we had to declare an emergency. Jay Bruning was there within he immediately picked up the phone and he was there quickly. I believe it has been cleaned up today.
Yeah,
the site has been cleared.
Looks good.
So again, fire department's been very busy over the last 2 weeks. I think we've had 4 structures. So just encouraging people to that time of year, be very careful what they're doing. So that's where that's at.
Okay. The house to the north took quite a bit of
damage.
Was that
I
a
checked
rental?
with Tyler today. It is insured.
Okay.
She is waiting to hear back from her agent. They were considering making it a total loss, so it's possible we're going to have 2 vacant lots there.
Okay.
The house on West Main, fire this past weekend, 1008 West Main,
Yep.
was declared a total loss. They have settled with the homeowner, who it's a rental. She lives in Wichita, and she has already contacted a local contractor, and that house will be, she's removing it. She'll do a deposit with David so that we make sure it gets cleaned up properly. So that house will be removed too.
Okay, good, good. And the same process for the one on the north?
Yes, that
When that-
will be coming on the 13th meeting to set a date for a public hearing.
Okay.
And we hoping that by then has an answer from her insurance agent as to what she's going to do.
Okay, great. Okay, and then we have item D, the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System, verification findings.
Mayor and Commissioners, David has done an excellent job on there's a lot of documentation that goes into this. So based on his efforts, we were increased to a Class 7, which means that the majority of those that have flood insurance policies issued or renewed on or after April 1st, 2022, should qualify for a 15% discount. So we thought that was really good news, and I want to give kudos to David for the great work that he did on that.
Right. Thank you, David.
Congratulations, David.
Yep, that's good. The people in those areas will appreciate having a 15% discount. Good news for them. City manager comments. Kelly, what do you have for us this evening?
Previously, we had talked about having a special meeting on Wednesday, the 29th at 9 a.m., and I wanted to make sure you were all still available for that.
I am.
Okay.
At 9 a.m.?
At 9 a.m. on the 29th, it's a Wednesday.
I'm available.
Okay. And then also, before the next regular commission meeting on the 13th, we would like to have a reception prior to that, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was okay with that. And I just wanted to verify what we were thinking, started at 4:45 before the commission meeting, unless you have another thought or idea on timing. We're just trying to firm up plans, so.
I'm good.
Yeah. I think that's kind of worked good in the past, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last one was like 30 minutes and it was a little bit, kind of ran into the meeting, so we thought an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It might make it a little bit better, so
Yeah, I
if that
think
works for all of you.
I think that does.
That works for me.
Okay. Commissioner Kaflish, does that work for you?
I think so.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And that's what I have, so
That's what you
thank you
have.
so much.
Okay, commissioners, do either one of you have comments for this evening?
I have just one, and that is that it's been a good year for the City of Independence. We've seen a lot of great changes, progress moving forward, and just wish everybody a safe and happy holiday season.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kaflish?
Well, it was good to see the staff come out for the awards luncheon. You know, from what I saw, it looked like everyone had a good time. Appreciate you, Kelly, being concerned about the staff recognition, and I thought it went well. It looked like everyone had a good time. I know you look at the work of the staff, there's a lot of dedicated employees. You know, the water sewer crew, rain, snow, heat, they're on call, they're keeping things flowing.
Short-staffed.
The sanitation crew, you know, I've watched them with the big change we had going to the dumpsters. I can't see any negative attitude. They're positive. They're working hard. They're really been flexible. I think we're fortunate to have a lot of good people and good leadership at the top. So
I
wish them all Merry Christmas and you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And April and Lacey really put that together for the employees. So I really have to give them credit for putting that all together. They did an excellent job. They are very good party planners.
Yeah. I would just like to say I do appreciate staff, all the employees, all the long hours that they put in, shorthanded. But you know, it all comes down to it. The greatest asset the city has are its employees. And the old saying where I used to work at, the employees can make you or they can break you. That's lineman talk. And that's true. But we recognize how important a part of this process they are as we continue to find ways to make improvements, to get them to commit to staying with the city as a long-term employee. And it's an ever-going process. It's a process that keeps rolling on. I mean, there's always plenty of things to do, but I do appreciate the hard work of staff, the employees. I just want to wish everyone a safe and sound, joyful, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and for those of you that have time off, enjoy your time, and hopefully we will all stay healthy going into the new year. So, and that's all I have, but thank you all very much. And I've appreciated sitting here in the middle. It's hopefully I've done better than I did the first time. I was still green behind the ears, but I've enjoyed it very much. I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. But with that, I'm going to end. So, Merry Christmas to all, and I'm going to make a motion. Do I know any public concerns?
No, but I just
No.
wanted to let everybody know City Hall is closed tomorrow.
Okay.
But there will be sanitation pickup tomorrow because they will observe Christmas Day as their holiday.
Okay.
And then we'll have a repeat of that next week with New Year's Eve. City Hall will be closed. And then sanitation will take their holiday on New Year's Day.
Okay.
So just so everybody's aware of that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, with that,
Merry,
I'm...
Merry Christmas to you as
All
well.
right, all right, thank you. With that, I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.